And now, Pujya Atman Sri Swami Jyotirmayananda commences tonight's satsang with a Sanskrit peace chant.
Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We begin with mystic song by Sri Swami Lalitananda, played and sung by Sri Swami Umananda and Rajneesh.
Our song tonight is based on a poem by Swamiji. It's called Odu Divine Wisdom. We are recording from the ashram of our revered Guru, Pujyatman Sri Swami Jyotirmayananda in Miami, Florida. Today is November the 13th, 2020, Friday evening, and tonight Swamiji will be lecturing on the Tulsi Ramayana. This is series 2016, class number 228. And now, Pujyatman Sri Swami Jyotirmayananda.
Om Neelambujasyamalakomalangam Sita Samaropitavamabhagam Panavu Mahasayak Chapam Namami Ramam Raghuvanshanatham. Adorations to Lord Rama, whose complexion is like a blue lotus. It's very tender and delightful in appearance. Sita is seated on his left side and is carrying powerful bow and arrow in his hands. All the description is allegorical. Rama is Brahman, the absolute God, the God. In Ayodhya Kand of Goswami Tulsidas' Ramayana, and verse number is 275. The context in this story, following the storyline, two big parties have joined in Rama's ashram. Rama, Lakshmana, Sita, they are in the forest by the banks of the Mandakini river. And now in that ashram, two parties have come. Bharata came first with Janakpur, and next one is King Janaka himself. And so you are being given that a special spiritual atmosphere that built up. Muda Mangalamaya Santa Samaju. How does Santa Samaj looks like? And this is the picture of Santa Samaj. One is Videha, King Janaka's Samaj, that gives you that points to Videha Mukti, which is the ultimate goal. Another is Bharata's Samaj, that points to Bhakti, devotion. So one side is Bhakti, another side is Mukti. Two Samaj coming together. But Bhakti and Mukti, I said, they're the climax. The Samaj is all the potential qualities that will lead you to that goal. And that's represented by King Janaka and his party. And all the potential of Bhakti and how to reach that Bhakti, that is represented by Bharata and his Ayodhya Puri Samaj. And you are being given a profound insight into the goal of life. Also understand the entire Ramayana operates through every soul. Every soul is essentially Rama. Your own personality is all that we have described Chitrakoot, where Rama is, how Janaka is coming with his party, how Ayodhya people came. All together is a description of spiritual aspirant and what happens in his personality. And happenings in a spiritual movement, first stage of happenings are with effort. You bring to your mind your ideal, what you want to attain, and you bring that ideal into daily life with effort. For example, what you have to attain is absolute ahimsa. The mind does not entertain violence. In the beginning, you always notice the operation of hinsa through your mind. You work hard, control it. That's called sadhana stage. When you become perfected, it becomes spontaneous in your personality. It's no longer a sadhana. The same goal, when effort is implied with the goal, then it is called sadhana. When the goal becomes effortless, it is called siddhi. That's the difference between means and end on the spiritual path. Keeping that in view, now let's enjoy the storyline and all the rasa presented to you. Ashram sagar santaras puran pavan pathu sen manahu karuna sarit liye jahi raghunathu. Rama's ashram is like the ocean of the sacred water of Shantaras, peace, ocean of peace. The party of King Janaka is ocean of karuna, compassion. And that Karuna Ras river is coming to enter the ocean of Rama. Borati Jnana Virag Karare Batan Saso Kamilat Nadanare Socha Usas Samir Taranga Dhiraj Tat Taruvar Karabhanga. This river of Karuna that is entering the ocean of Shantaras, the river of Karuna, that's the party of King Janaka, is so swollen that it has broken the banks of Jnana and Vairagya. All these are highly allegorical writings. When you are advancing on the spiritual path, you need to practice vairagya, dispassion. You need to attain knowledge by studying the scriptures. You get involved in listening, reflection. All that the practice of jnana and vairagya. But as heart opens up to divine feeling, Neither you have to practice jnana nor exercise your vairagya. You are being drawn to Rama. You are being drawn to the highest goal without your going through details of how to reach that goal. It's like a big magnet is pulling you. Just become magnetic. So that is how the party of King Janaka looks like a river entering the ocean of Rama. And following the storyline, people who are coming with King Janaka and Janaka himself, they are all under a special type of grief, because King Dasharatha has passed away, Rama has come into the forest. All these are challenging news. And so, as the party comes, people are breathing heavy breaths, deep breathing out of grief. And their grief and heavy breathing is like the waves in the river of compassion. विषम विषाद तोरावती धारा भय भ्रम भव भंवर अवर्त अपारा केवट बुध विद्या बड़ी नावा सकहिन केई ऐक नहीं पावा ऐक नहीं आवा. Janaka with the party of his party from Janakapur, they are coming to meet Rama, like a river coming to enter Karunaras ocean. That river is allegorically being described, the river in the form of King Janaka's society or group or party. Their grief is the swift current of that river. Their fear and their emotions, these are whirlpools and undercurrents of that river. Their knowledge, King Janaka's knowledge, is the boatman. And knowledge itself is like a big boat. But only difficulty is there is no oar to plow the boat, to lead the boat across the river and ultimately to meet Rama. मनचर कोल की रात बिचारे थके बिलो की पति कहीं हारे आश्रम उदति मिली जब जाई, मनहु उठेउ अम्बुधि अकुलाई. And in that forest of Rama, wild tribes people abound in that forest. And when they encounter this Karuna Nadi, they are extremely overwhelmed. Karuna Nadi is a river of compassion. शोक बिकल दौराज समाजा, रहा न ज्ञान न धीरज लाजा. भूप रूप गुणशील सराही, रोवहीं शोक सिंधु अवगाही. Both society of Janaka and society of Bharata, both are agitated. So agitated that they don't use any of their wisdom, nor do they have any patience. All these are highly allegorical. The idea is to show that as spirituality advances in your personality, Bhakti movement, Jana movement, all these don't rest. They are constantly alert, vigorous, progressive. In a storyline, King Janaka and his party, they are experiencing grief, having encountered the news of King Dasharatha's death. Which had led them to come to Rama's ashram. They knew about Dasharatha's death, but the news of anyone's death continues to operate in the human heart in the form of grief. So they are constantly talking about how King Dasharatha looked, what were his great qualities, what were his divine virtues. And while reflecting upon King Dasharatha's personality, they are as if diving into the ocean of grief. Avagahi shoka samudra sochahi, nari nar vyakula maha, जय दोष सकल सरोष बोलहि, भाम विधि बिकिन्नो कहा. सुर सिद्ध तापस जोगी जन, मुनि देखी दशा विदेह की. तुलसी न समर्थ को जो, तरि सकै सरित स्नेह की. So there is an atmosphere of grief. And people are blaming the Creator for promoting this type of challenging situation. Tulsidas ji says that even gods, siddhas, great yogis, or ascetics and sages were unable to fathom the depth of King Janaka's love that is welled up in his heart. In other words, love of God is indescribable. And that love is being highlighted. Whenever people hear King Janaka, first stage of King Janaka is representing perfection in jnana. But that doesn't give you correct picture of the king. Correct picture is that type of jnana that surrenders itself to bhakti, devotion. In simple way to understand, your spiritual advancement, when you study jnana, it looks like simple, one path. But if bhakti is not there in your jnana, then jnana is simply dry. So all the rigidity of jnana, all the stiffness of jnana, and mathematical restrictions of jnana, they as if swept away when bhakti enters. And King Janaka plays the role of how bhakti is making his heart so happy. It's called pathetic fallacy. King Janaka himself doesn't need all this, but then this is being shown for aspirants to understand. And from another angle, Janaka potential is in every individual. And Bharata potential is also in every individual. The potentiality means you are going to attain Videha Mukti, not body, not mind, you are going to attain it, that's your potential, King Janaka potential. And bhakti must enable you to follow the path in a most dynamic way. So how in a spiritual aspirant, the role of bhakti movement and the movement that leads to enlightenment, vichar movement, both must blend. किए अमित उपदेश जहाँ तहाँ लोग गण मुनि बड़न धीरज धरिय नरेश कहे वशिष्ठ बद विदेह सन. In that atmosphere, sages and saints from both sides, those who came from Ayodhya, those who came from King Janaka, Janakpur, they gave lots of instructions, countless upadesh. And sage Vasishtha told King Janaka, O king, please have patience. Jasu Jnana Rabi भवनिशिनाशा बचन किरण मुनि कमल विकासा तेहि की मोह ममता नियराई यस्य राम स्नेह बढ़ाई. King Janaka, whose wisdom is like the shining sun, the sun that is never overpowered by darkness, and whose words that come out of his mouth, they are like the rays of light that enable the lotuses in the form of sages and saints to blossom, to be delighted. How can moha and mamata affect King Janaka? This is Sri Ram's, the glory of Rama's love. What you are being given the message. Firstly, that King Janaka is so great, but his greatness becomes more embellished by bhakti or devotion. Put it more in a simple way, your goal is not to realize neti, not this, not this. Your goal is not to realize neti only, but your goal is to have that ecstatic vision that all this is Brahman. God alone is expressing in this whole world. If you are holding your mind to only one direction, then it is intellectual attainment, not the goal. If your knowledge of I am Brahman keeps your heart dry, empty, you are not really advancing. And similarly, if your heart is full of moha mamata, full of tender sentiments, but if it doesn't have devotion, love of God, or if that heart is not inspiring your wisdom, that heart again is not perfect. The bhakti in you is imperfect. So both bhakti movement and jnana movement, they have to face challenges. And in storyline, this meeting of two great parties is to promote jnana bhakti blend. And jnana bhakti blend, you must understand, means integral yoga, karma, action, bhakti, devotion, dhyana, same as Raj Yoga, willpower, and jnana, wisdom. Wisdom, meditation, devotion, and action. These are four aspected movement in personality leading to integral yoga or integral development. विषयी साधक सिद्ध सयाने त्रिविध जीव जग भेद व्यखाने. The Vedas have taught that in this world there are three types of jivas, three categories. Vishayi, people who are just addicted to sense pleasure, pleasures of the eating, drinking, and pleasures of the senses. Eat, drink, and be merry. They are Vishayis. Then there are sadhaks, people who are striving to progress on the spiritual path. And then there are people who have become mature aspirants, Janavan. They are accomplished with spiritual knowledge. But the best of all aspirants, rather best of all people, is one who has developed devotion to Rama. By saying devotion to Rama, it means same thing like devotion to Krishna, devotion to Devi, devotion to, implying devotion to Brahman. Brahman alone is worshipped through different gods. If the chitta is rendered saras, if the sweet, cool breeze blows over your chitta, the breeze of love of God, then you are the best. If going beyond these three categories of the jivas. And in the assembly of sages and saints, these love-inundated hearts, love for God, love of Rama, they are adored and worshipped. सोहन राम प्रेम बिनु ज्ञानु करण धान बिनु जिमि जल जानू. Jana without love of Rama does not shine. It is dull. So all talks of wisdom with a heart that is miserly, cruel, and have nothing elevating for bhavana or feeling. That should not be your goal. Allegorically, it's just like you have a big ship, everything in it. Only one thing is not there, is the captain of this ship. You have everything, but you have not the guiding light of your intuitive intellect. Sage Vasishtha conversed with Videharaj and Janaka and inspired him by his talks. And afterwards they all took sacred baths in Ram Ghat. The lake, the bank of that lake is known as, since it is Rama's ashram, we call it Ram Ghat. Sakal Sok Sankul Nar Nari, Soba Sarubi Teubinu Chabari, Pashukagam Mirghana Nakina Haru, Priya Parijan Karakon Vicharu. Men, women, all were full of grief. But realize here this grief is of a different nature. Grieving for union with God. That in brief is not really grief. It's a profound blessing. That day, all of them passed without even drinking water. That was the Satsang atmosphere. They were all so drawn to it, experiencing grief of Rama's separation and listening to the talks of Vasishtha and sages. So much so, Pashukag Mirghana Nakina Aharu, even the birds, animals, the deer, they were all enjoying the satsanga, with the ears perked up, with their eyes shining intent, with big suspense. And they forgot about eating, drinking, nothing. This allegorical writing, animals do become influenced by how you live. That is another reality. But the profounder point here is Satsanga atmosphere is so powerful that even if you have animal nature in your personality, all that begins to dwindle, fade away. All the Pashu aspect fades away. Dau samaj nimiraju, Raghuraju nahane. Dau samaj nimiraj Raghuraju nahane prat. Baithe sababat bitapatar man malina krisagat. Both samaj, both party, Janaka's side and Bharata's side, they all prepared for taking baths. And afterwards, they sat under banyan trees or some other trees. Their bodies were getting emaciated and looking a little dusty. Ye Mahisur Dasharatha Purabasi, ye Mithilapati Nagar Nivasi, Hansa Bansa Guru Janaka Purodha, Jin Jagamagu Paramarath Sodha. All those great personalities from Ayodhya and Mithila Mislapur means King Janaka's city, Janakpur. All these saintly personalities, including Vasishtha, they began to give their teachings. Mud Mangalmay Sant Samaju. This is a description of Sant Samaj. लगे कहन उपदेश अनेका सहित धर्म नयन विरति विवेका कौशिक कही कही कथा पुरानी समुझाई सब सभा सुबानी. And they taught about dharma. Yato dharma sato jaya. What is dharma? How you will lead yourself to victory. Niti. How to put spiritual knowledge in theory of spirituality into daily practice. Vairagya. How to be free of worldly attachments. Viveka, the discriminative knowledge. Who am I? The difference between self and not self. All these points were taught in that atmosphere. So even though they are all grieving for Rama, they are not just sitting paralyzed. All this big activity goes on. And Sage Vishwamitra told many ancient stories, Puranas and Itihasas, and all the vast assembly of people that had gathered, they were all blessed with these teachings. Tab Raghunath Kausikahi कहे कहेऊ नाथ काली जल बिनु सब रहेऊ. Sri Rama said to Sage Vishwamitra, O great Lord, sage, all these people have not eaten and not even taken water. In brief, let them break their fast. Muni kaha uchit kahat raghurai, gaye ubit din par adhai. Vishwamitra said, Sri Rama is saying that what is right, and already day has advanced. ऋषि रुक लखी कहते तेरे हुती राजू यहाँ उचित नहीं आसन अनाजू. Hearing the instruction from Sage Vishwamitra, King Janaka said that here at this place eating is not appropriate. We must all go into the river or to the lake to have baths, sacred baths. तेही अवसर फल फूल दल मूल अनेक प्रकार लई आए बन चर विपुल भरी भरी कांवरी भार. And at that time, people of the forest They brought lots of fruits, flowers, leaves, roots. These are all edible materials. Phal, phool, patta, mool. Radishes are mool. Spinach, etc. are patta. Cauliflowers are flowers. Mangoes, etc. are fruits. But more important to understand, they relate to 4 aspects of your personality, 4 yoga movement. Karma yoga movement is going after leaf. Bhakti yoga movement is going after flower. Dhyana yoga movement is going after fruit. And Jnana yoga movement going after the root. So, you are practicing sadhana in a right way. You are in Rama's ashram and you are being served by divine wild tribe. Not normal people are city types. But people who are swamis, sannyasis, they are wild people, live in wilderness. Kamadabhe giri Rama prasada avalokat apaharata vishada sarasarita banabhumi vibhaga janu umagata ananda anuraga. And by the miracle of Sri Rama's grace, that mountain began to present all the abundance of things that are desired by people. They began to fulfill all their desires. This divine mountain is the embodiment of grace. Even just by looking at the mountain, people were rid of their fears and miseries. In Rama's place, in that forest, rivers, lakes, all that the forest contains was filled with bliss and love. And with this I will be concluding. Om Ram 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 Ram. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om. Prayer for shower of Karunamaya Ras grace over all of you, and for the blessings of Shakti, Bhakti and Mukti. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarukum Bandhanan Mrityor Mukshiyama Mritat. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kashchid Dukh Bhag Bhavet Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om.
Are there any questions tonight?
Feel free, feel free.
And we conclude. Om Tat Sat.